this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and today was a good day for crypto markets, certainly. Look at this headline from the Crypto Basic. XRP shuffling continues. 375 million XRP moved around Ripple, exchanges, and unknown wallets. And I'll tell you right now, here at the outset, so as to not tease too much, they go on to postulate that this may very well have something to do with on-demand liquidity, and this is obviously happening at the same time that we're seeing a nice little market pump today, and that has to do with the consumer price index. And inflation, as outrageous as it has been, is less outrageous than what people were expecting by a little tiny baby boo bit, just a tiniest little sliver of a bitness. And I'll explain exactly what that is in great detail. But before going any further, I do want to be clear that I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So markets, by and large, looking pretty damn green today. Here, I'll just scroll down for the fun. If you look to the right here, this is a 24-hour price change column. You can see on Live CoinWatch, pretty much all green, with rare exception. And the ones that are down, I mean, I think a couple of them were technically stable coins, right? Yeah, USDT, USDC down a fraction of like a third of a percent roughly. BUSD down a little less than 1%. So by and large, the point is, it's mostly green here. You got XRP up about 5.5% over the last 24 hours at 38 cents. Bitcoin at $24,527. Market cap for the asset class at 1.17 trillion. Bitcoin dominance at 39.76%. And here's the crypto fear and greed index. And yes, you can see those lovable, cuddly little retail lemmings out there who follow one after another. Whatever the group is doing, I'm gonna do the same thing, even if it's following the one in front of you, the lemming in front of you, right off a cliff to your own demise. Well, they're feeling a little bit better today than yesterday. Crypto Fear and Greed Index at 41 out of 100. Yesterday was at 31 out of 100. And by the way, the day before that, it was at 42 out of 100. So from about where it is now to a good bit lower to about the same place. And people are feeling actual feelings flying by the seat of their pants like this, which is why I love highlighting the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, to highlight just how absurd it is, to point out how irrational it is, and understand that these people are actually making important financial decisions based on the feels that they have on any given day. Because reasons, folks. If you're asking why, it's because reasons. Now take a look at this from the Crypto Basic. Again, headline here is XRP shuffling continues. 375 million XRP moved around Ripple, exchanges, and unknown wallets. Less than 48 hours after Whale Alert reported the movement of over 410 million XRP coins, the whale tracking service has observed yet another transfer of, I'll round the number here, 375 million XRP. The funds mostly flowed among Ripple, popular cryptocurrency exchanges, and anonymous wallets. So just pause to note here, in terms of anything touching a wallet that is Ripple's, we already know Ripple's publicly stated for the umpteenth million time that they're only moving XRP and selling XRP to key partners, and they also lend it out. So actually, mind this too, a lot of people assume that there are actual sales here. In terms of ownership, the XRP could still be owned by Ripple, and then it could move to a different address, and it could technically actually just be a loan. They do loan out XRP, so just something to consider there. But the reason I want to highlight this, if this is the case, that's highly likely actually on-demand liquidity related, right? And so we don't know. And again, I'm not saying that is indeed the case. We don't know, and it's actually really difficult to figure out which flows could potentially be on-demand liquidity. And it is fair to say too, like in these nascent days here, a very small percentage of overall XRP transactions have anything to do with on-demand liquidity, but that's not to belittle the efforts of Ripple or everybody working on positioning XRP as a bridge currency. I'm just speaking from a factual perspective, but there's so much opportunity, and we already know that the growth of on-demand liquidity utilizing XRP as a bridge currency, it's just been exploding at quite a clip. I mean, we saw year over year for Q2 over the previous Q2, it was up ninefold. You know, Ripple's report, they even cite that in this article. But anyway, piece reads as follows. According to Whale Alert, the first transaction occurred on August 9th, 2022 at 1616 UTC. Now, per blockchain data, a total of 75 million XRP worth $27.68 million were sent from leading cryptocurrency exchange FTX to an unknown address. And a few hours later, Whale Alert tracked another 75 million XRP valued at around $27.85 million sent from Ripple wallet to an unknown address. And Ripple has recently been involved in these large XRP movements since the beginning of this month. Understandably, Ripple's involvement in large XRP transactions could be related to a spike in on-demand liquidity demand. And so it's reasonable to state that. We already know, based on what Ripple, a private company, has been publicly reporting, dramatic increase in terms of on-demand liquidity adoption. And we know that if XRP is moving, if it's from a Ripple wallet, what do you think it has to do with, right? And so we just see these massive flows. It's fascinating. Despite the SEC bringing the hammer down on Ripple and effectively XRP holders as a result, we just keep seeing more and more adoption because the rest of the world, frankly, they kind of don't give a damn. So what's been going on today? What's the biggest news resulting in this very happy surge that we've been seeing in crypto markets and actually equities as well? What's going on here? Well, here's a headline from the Daily Huddle. Bitcoin and crypto markets pop as CPI data shows peak inflation reversal. Crypto traders are celebrating a highly anticipated report from the Fed that details a meaningful reversal in inflation for the first time this year. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI for short, shows a year-over-year inflation increase of 8.5% in July compared to 9.1% in June. So let me just pause to note something here. So the expectation, actually, and they may not cover it in this article, what the experts, quote-unquote experts, were expecting was that inflation, year-over-year inflation for July would have been 8.7%, and it was only 8.5%. So a little tiny, like I said at the outset, little tiny baby boo bit lower than what the expectation was. And then you also have the White House claiming that inflation is 0%. Now, what did they actually mean by that? Well, if you compare from June of this year, the increase in June, year-over-year increase in June of 2022, compare that increase to the increase year-over-year for July of 2022, the increase in July was less than the increase in June, and so they're utilizing that to make a statement, which is technically true depending on the time frame that you're looking at. 0% increase in interest, but again, depends on the time frame from last month to this month. But if you look, so what's been happening for most of the last year, though? Interest rates have been out of control, skyrocketing here, and then it's at a point where from June to July, the annual increase from one to the next, it's such that basically the status quo is maintained. So it's still outrageous compared to a year ago, but if you look on a shorter time frame, you can state that it's 0%. There was no increase in inflation. While technically true, it doesn't address the broader problem, and it's not intellectually honest, but they're politicians, right? I would expect, whether it's the left or the right, whoever is in charge, to spin whatever the state of things is. I'd expect them to spin it in as positive a way as possible, and frankly, this probably is the best way you could try to spin it, but I don't know who's actually falling for it. People are not exactly happy. Like, their lives are worse as a result of this inflation. So you can tell them it's 0%, but gas is still way higher. Even though it's been coming down, it's still way higher than it was a year ago. All sorts of things cost more. Go to the grocery store. If you've been in a grocery store, you must know this, And looking over shorter time periods, it's just not as useful as looking at year over year. So that's why I look at this and okay, well, politicians being politicians, I expect them to do that. But since there was some people are questioning, how could this be true? They're claiming 0%. Year over year is 8.5. Well, that's why I wanted to just be clear here. Those are the facts. You can think about it whatever you can like it, you can not like it. That's what they're doing. They're comparing on a different time frame. I'm just bringing you the information. You think whatever you want about it. I think it's more useful rather than looking at a month-to-month time frame, which has never been useful for pretty much anything in terms of inflation, other than pure interest at best. Looking at changes year over year. Now that makes sense. That's useful data right there. And still fine. You want to look on a shorter time frame. Okay, it's nice to see the little tiny baby boo bit that they were expecting to be there, that 8.7%. It wasn't there. It was only 8.5%, so still outrageous compared to a year ago. But still, the fact that occurred, it resulted in markets becoming very, very happy that perhaps the top is in terms of inflation. Because when markets participants saw this, they started throwing money around like they're at the club. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this headline from CNBC. In fact, I'm going to get right back to the Daily Hodl article. I don't want to read this one, just the headline here, but this is from CNBC. Stocks soar. S&P 500 hits highest level in 3 months after a key report shows slowdown in inflation. So there you go. The fact that it's just slowed down, and again, when we say slowed down, though, from 1 month to the next, it's still a dramatic increase year over year. But the fact that that happened made people think, okay, well, maybe we've already seen the worst, and now we're just going to throw money at everything, right? And so markets just started rallying. But this is the reason. This is the catalyst. And this also proves further, and at this point, if you've been following my channel, you're probably completely convinced, because it's the only logical conclusion you can come to, is that in a broad sense, the price action of the crypto asset class, it absolutely follows stocks. It moves in tandem. It's all being treated the same. And I don't know if it's always going to be like that, but right now in 2022, yes, it is. This is just another example of that being the case. Anyway, then the Daily Hodl piece continues. While inflation remains red hot, global markets are popping on the prospect that high prices have hit a peak and are finally in reverse. Macroeconomic expert and crypto bull Raoul Pal says he believes this is the beginning of a long-term reversal. And I'll note that Raoul Pal, by the way, is a pro XRP. He holds XRP. He's publicly stated this. And he thinks that, in particular, when the SEC case is resolved with Ripple, he thinks it's going to be in favor of XRP holders. And he's publicly stated, I mean, he thinks that XRP would have a tenfold increase. And he said that around the point when XRP was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1. So he's clearly thinking that $10 XRP ultimately in the cards here. And he's a former Goldman Sachs executive, too. He just seems like an intellectually honest guy. So I've been a fan of Raoul Pal for a pretty long time at this point. But anyway, piece reads as follows. Paul predicts inflation will plummet over the next 18 months as concerns over inflation shift to realities of recession, forcing the Fed to reverse course on interest rate hikes that have pummeled crypto and equities. And here is his quote. Peak inflation gives way to peak growth fear. I do think markets will react positively to weak growth, not negatively, broadly speaking. Okay, so we've seen multiple rate hikes. There's been 3 rate hikes this year, with the most recent one being 75 basis points, which is 0.75%. And the expectation here, as a result of the interest, what people seem to be betting on, the market speculators, is that we're not going to see higher than that. Perhaps we'll even see a lower increase in the interest rate. Although I think pretty much at this point, everybody still is expecting some increase, whether it's 50 basis points, again, that'd be 0.5%. Whatever it ends up being, there's still going to be something, but directionally, even though it's an increase and that's to tamp down inflation even further, the point is these are viewed as signs that we're headed in the right direction. So if people continue to view these as signs that we're heading in the right direction, then in a general sense, even though nothing goes up in a straight line, you will see stocks continue to rally and crypto. That's the bet that's being made. So if that is indeed the case, at some point there's just going to be another rally in crypto. And look, it makes sense to be diversified. I don't think it makes sense to only be invested in crypto and not the stock market, just generally speaking. But even so, with the stock market rallying, it will pale in comparison to what happens in crypto next time euphoria hits in crypto. And it's coming. I just don't pretend to know when. In a general sense, like, I'm interested. It's like I want to say I don't care and be flippant about it. And I don't, in the sense like of, oh my God, is that gonna happen? But in terms of I'm interested, I do care. But in terms of like, is that gonna happen? I can't even sleep at night. No, I'm not worried about that. I'm not concerned. It doesn't matter in that sense. It's going to come. And at some unknown point in the future, given that the market moves in tandem, it's going to bode very well for XRP. At some point, I firmly believe XRP is going to hit its all-time high. But that's why it's the reason I'm reporting on this the way that I am is that if you're in crypto, it doesn't matter what coin you're interested in, you need to understand that this is the way that everything moves, in tandem. And that's why it's worth being aware of what is driving this. Because if you're aware of what's driving this, then if things, especially if things start to go to the negative, you don't have to be fearful. You can just be in the know and be like, yeah, well, the human retail speculators are being emotional again. I guess I just won't be like them. You know, that's what I do for myself. Like, I just don't worry about it. I just don't give a damn. And if you ask me what the trick to that is, it's genuinely not caring. Like, that is, so it's not really a trick. It's just, I genuinely don't care. When these people have their emotional responses and prices go down, I just like, whatever. I don't care. I just don't care. Because I know what they're doing. There's so much data showing how humans behave over 100 years with the stock market, over a decade with crypto. Yeah, I know what they're doing. It's very obvious. But if you don't know that, you're scared. And then even if you technically know that, but you're new to investing and you put your real money in, you might be scared anyway. So it's not so easy to not react to this, but that's broadly what's going on right here. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I keep seeing more and more people who I respect and who I think are generally correct in terms of directionally where they're expecting things to go. I just see more and more of them publicly stating things along the lines of, yeah, the bottom's in, or this is pretty much it, even if there's one little leg down. I just keep seeing more and more and more of that. And then you throw this news on top of it and markets are starting to rally. I mean, it supports that argument anyway. I live in the world of I don't know for sure. I don't pretend to know. I'm just sharing with you information. I'm just as interested in you, which is why I love to talk about this stuff. But the truth is, nobody actually knows for sure, so it's more of a probabilities game. In terms of probabilities, I think we've either seen the very worst for this market cycle or pretty damn close to it. That's my suspicion. That's my hunch. But we all get to find out in real time, don't we? And that's the magic of being in this space. So let me know what you think, but hopefully you're all feeling fantastic out there. I mean, if you're an emotional lemming, then you should be feeling better today than yesterday. Again, look at the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, as I cited. Up 10 points in just one 24-hour period. You got to be floating on a cloud, right? I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.